So today I'm working on a Cuban chain and this ring here. Now, I always put off rings like this as long as I can. It's just, they're really stressful. And the setting on here, it's not exactly easy, especially making it. The real tricky part is getting it set, bending these bezels over, because there's always the risk of breaking the stone. This wasn't an expensive stone. It was, I think, under 40 bucks. I had it shipped in from India. But I have to get this setting soldered on. What I had just done was filed the very edges, the corners, so that it would sit flat without any light showing through it. That makes a really good solder joint. What I have to do now is I have to trim down the outer walls here so that the top of the setting peeks over a little bit. And if all goes well, I'll have this ring finished today. The stone's sitting in here a little cockeyed, but I should be able to adjust that. I also got some new tools. If you haven't noticed, I got a new bench pin. Pretty stoked about that. It's less clumpy. It doesn't have an anvil back here. I don't think you guys can see past it. And it's not a screw-on type. It doesn't clamp onto the bench. It screws in to the side here. And here's my new tool that I got. It's pretty heavy. I think it's like 8 to 10 pounds. So this is a bezel forming. I'd call it a die. I don't know exactly what they call it, but I would call it a die. Comes with this tool, but in the comments, the reviews, it says not to use this tool. Which is just odd, because why would... People must be doing it wrong to say don't use this tool. Otherwise, why would it come with it? And it's not like a cheap piece of crap, you know. It looks like it was machined and sanded up to, I don't know, probably like at least 220 grit. So they put time into making this tool. I'm thinking the reason people say don't use it is because they're trying to like put a sheet of silver or gold and then smack the bezel down. What I think it's really intended for is filling out the square, you know, because if you make a square, it's not going to be perfectly square. So you shove this in there and it seats everything out so that it's flat. As to where if you just made a square and it was a small one and you put it in the big one and then just put something flat and hammered it on there, it would just squish down into a squared shape, but it might not be flat on the inside. So I think that's what this is intended for. I don't think it's intended for like punching through a piece of silver or gold. These are expensive. This one was like 90 bucks. These holes aren't exactly square, or this punch isn't exactly square, because it fits in one orientation better than the other. But I need to get a oval one, and then maybe a circle one, and then if they have a pear shape, that'd be nice too, to do a faceted setting for a pear shaped stone. Be nice if they made one for something like this, but I doubt they do. I still don't know what I'm going to do with this set of peridot stones. You know, I want to do a full set of jewelry with like earrings, maybe a pendant or a necklace. I'm not sure. We got 2 trillion cut, triangle shaped. We got this octagonal, elongated shape, and then an oval. So I'm not sure. Maybe the oval will be a ring, and then the octagonal elongated one will be a pendant. Maybe I'll throw the trillion cuts in with the pendant and then order some round faceted ones for earrings, or maybe even some cabs. I think cabs might look a little better for the earrings, for just studs. Or maybe I'll do something a little more fancy and get faceted stones and do a styled earring rather than just a stud earring. That's what we're up to today. It's been a long few days. We had a wake yesterday that was about 2 hours away. I don't know. It was surprising because the guy, my uncle, he wasn't in bad health or anything, so it was just kind of shocking. So we've had a long few days, but I'm back at it today. Feeling chipper, so yeah, we're gonna get this ring out of the way. Hopefully, this chain is kicking my butt. It's been about a year since I made one. For anybody who doesn't know, Cuban chains, I really hate what the market's done to them. So people have asked me, I've had a handful, maybe like 10 people ask me for a chain, and then I give them a price and they just quit responding. One thing you have to understand is, if you're asking me for a Cuban chain, I'm making it by hand. So I'm not even remotely going to be able to compete with an Amazon chain, like the Amazon store, a chain off of Etsy, Shopify, or even a jewelry store. Because when you're looking at a Cuban chain and it's under $100, which $100 I would never sell one of my handmade Cubans for that. I have in the past, just trying to get my name out. That was a big mistake for how much work goes into them. You're not gonna get a handmade chain for cheap. People just, they don't seem to understand. I've even had people argue me over this, but the cheap Cuban chains, they're all machine made. Guaranteed, 100%, hands down, they're machine made, and that's why they're so cheap. Now, there might be an assembly line of people that fidget with it or polish it, but they're not actually making it. They're not assembling it. And they do have videos out there, they're hard to find, but of the machine making process. So your handmade Cuban chain, you have to, I'm like a goldsmith and a silversmith, also known as a jeweler, and one of the things I think is important, if you want to call yourself a jeweler, you have to have at least made everything from the beginning steps at least once. Otherwise, how are you a jeweler? You know, I don't mean to throw shade at people that buy prefabricated metal, but I think that's an essential part of being a jeweler, is fabricating everything. So I make my own wire, I make my own sheet, I make my own strips. I do it all. So with the chain, you have to cast an ingot, you have to roll the ingot down, you have to pull the ingot through a die, which we call a draw plate, one of these. You have to shrink it down and then get the diameter you want. I have two of them here for square and round wire. They also have all sorts of shapes. I use both of them. I use the square one to get it to fit through the round one. I also have a really big round draw plate. These are expensive. They're like $50 to $100+ each. You do that, then you coil the silver wire on something that's round, you know, the diameter you want. You need two of them to fit in one link. So the idea of the link, it needs to be twice or more the thickness of the wire, so you can fit through two of them through there. You have to link all of them together. Before you link them together, you have to sand where you cut so that it's a clean join. And you have to link all of them together. You have to close them. You have to solder them. You have to squish them so that they're oval shaped, all of them. Then you have to anneal a ton of times. You got to twist it. Then you got to file it. Then you got to polish. It's a 10+ hour process is what I'm getting at. So there's no way your chain is handmade if you paid very little money for it. And people don't seem to understand that, or they don't care, which has kind of killed the chain making industry of jewelers. There's not many people that do it anymore. You really got to come out with some very odd looking chains for people to pay actual money for them. That's what I'm up to today. Not much going on, you know. I got 2 of these rings to make. Well, this one I'm making and another one I'm repairing. Then we got a fun stone to figure out. Throwing everything off my bench. It's an odd shaped stone. No idea what I'm doing with it yet. Anyways, God bless you guys. Hope you have a good day.